and welcome to Between Two Coaches. We're on a mission to make fitness more human. Snark is, of course, sold separately, and I'm Coach Amanda, joined as always with my co-host,
Nick. Thanks for joining us. Season 2 is flowing. This is episode 2, and we have a great episode tonight. That's 2 greats for episode 2, if you're counting at home. And we are talking today about setting up the correct environment for success as coaches. And that's going to be a fun topic. I think you're really going to find some interesting little tidbits. I like that word, tidbits of information.
I think it will also be very helpful if you're equally as helpful if you're not a personal trainer or run coach, for those who hire personal trainers and run coaches as to what environment might be best for you.
I love that. You sort of led us to let them know what's coming, and then they're going to wait and they're going to be ready for it because we're going to drop it on them later. But we're not yet, right? Because first we're going to dive into how are you doing, Amanda? How you doing?
I'm doing. I took my top aligners out so that I felt as wonderful as you.
The
Naked.
People are loving your Invisalign journey.
I've had several of you reach out to me. I thought it would be maybe about something of substance in the podcast, but instead you were like, I'm thinking about getting Invisalign. What is your experience? And then all of a sudden, I'm a spokesperson for Invisalign.
And now we're rebranding. We're between two Invisaligns.
I admittedly, one thing about me is I'm kind of obsessive when it comes to dental care. I love visiting my dentist.
No, that's not
I know people don't. It's not a thing. I love going to the dentist. I'm obsessed with my hygienist. Elena, I know you're not listening to this, but if you were,
shout out Elena.
I love you. And I know everything about your son and your Jamaican vacations and how you're trying to just get him to eat more meat. Anyway, so I love my dentist. I love my dental experience. And one thing, this is related to fitness, that we often do not talk about is how connected your dental health is to your physical and cognitive health.
Yeah.
So I actually spoke with, Stevie and Holly and I are going to be on Holly's podcast dropping in March. We talked all about, Holly, don't hate me that I'm bringing this up, but sneaky peeky, bad bitch bones. And one of the things that we spoke about very briefly, it was like for less than 60 seconds, is the importance of one's tooth health, dental health.
It is important.
In building bad bitch bones, and how potentially it could be indicative of how your bone health is, because teeth are made of bone.
That's interesting. Because the first time I went to the dentist, had 8 cavities, and I've probably had 20 plus 25 cavities in my life. But all my bones are pretty good. Really haven't broken a bone in my life, knock on wood. So teeth aren't great, but bones are boning.
Yeah, so we're gonna move on from this topic. But yes, thank you all for asking me about my Invisalign journey. This Valentine's Day, in celebration, I will be getting my braces off, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I told you I'm looking into Invisalign. I went and they did the little picture of my teeth, and she was like, this could work. And I was like, all right.
She was like, I didn't think you can get more perfect than you already were, Nicholas, but you gonna learn today.
But I didn't want to. Yeah. So I'm thinking about it, but we're excited to end your Invisalign journey and celebrate it with you on Friday. We'll all send you lots of messages saying congratulations on your Invisalign graduation.
Do not write, do not call. Don't do it.
I'm definitely sending it.
Please do not. My journey was actually pretty short. So I'm very well, and to be fair, this is my go-to. This is my second time around. Because here's my hot take. Okay. I just you were interrupting me, so now I'm going to interrupt you. My hot take is that no human under the age of like 18 should have braces because you are not responsible. Some of you under the age of 30, some of you under the age of are not responsible enough to follow through with the aftercare.
That's what I was gonna say. When one door closes, another door opens, and so begins your retainer journey.
Yes.
Now, right?
Yeah. I'm not worried about it though, because I've been keeping these in over the amount of time I should every day because I'm, again, excessive about dental care.
Yeah.
So I carry on me at all times floss, mouthwash, because as I'm eating, right, like I take them out, I eat, and I put them back in. And I'm like, my focus is 20 to 22 hours a day of wearing them. I know.
Yeah, you are an overachiever in the dental world.
You didn't ask, but you will receive.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 14 minutes in, and I don't know how I know how we got here, but now it's time to talk about you.
Yeah, me. How am I doing? I am doing fantabulous. I am grieving the Chiefs Super Bowl. I stopped watching, and the only story I'll tell about that is my daughters decided to watch the Super Bowl with me for the first year and cheer for daddy's team, the Chiefs. And my youngest, on numerous occasions, kept turning to me saying, "Hey, daddy, your team still has 0 and they're losing." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks,
She's smart.
honey." And the third quarter, daddy's the third quarter and your team still has 0 and they're losing. Thanks, honey. So I appreciated her watching. It was not a good game for them to watch with me. With the fighting Taylor Swift's lost a lot, but that's okay. Next up was, just I had a good long run over the weekend. Did my first 18 miler for the Boston build. So ran with my friends down in the BWI. What's we call it here? It's an airport. It's an airport that also has a trail around it that we run.
Oh, really?
So if you know,
I
you
didn't
know.
know.
It's outside the airport, but it's like a place that us locals can run around. So we did that. A little 18 miler was fun. I always feel like once I can get 18 miles down, I feel a little more like, okay with the build. I know I can get this marathon through. So yeah, good with that. Yeah. Else, I went back to work every day this week. Is so far we're 2 days in, and I'm struggling already. I understand this is a privilege take. A lot of you have been in the office forever. So I'm just taking some adjusting, not really whining, just adjusting. So yeah, that's been a fun journey, but otherwise,
You don't have
just
to lie.
cruising along.
It's not fun at all.
Well, it's not.
I know, because I've always
it's
had to go back into a place where I had to be somewhere physically to operate in my profession. So I understand. It's not fun. It would be much nicer.
Everything's better in your house. Just we should all be able to
No,
live in our house.
I wouldn't say that, but
work. I'm just kidding. I know. Hot take. That's not hot. No, I get it. I'm okay. I will be a little happy once I get in a routine. And have established the loss of the hour and 30 minutes of my commute that I had gained.
45 minutes each way?
It's about, yeah. But I've got a good podcast I'm listening to, and I've been cranking those beats out.
Are you going to tell us the name of the podcast, or?
It will show the nerd I am, so I will. It is a Dungeons and Dragons podcast I've been listening to. So I've never played the game, but I do enjoy listening to the storytelling of others playing the game, which would sound weird to 9.9 repeating % of this audience.
I don't know that we're friends.
Here I am telling you my deepest.
Not just me, though. You know that, right? Like, there are other people who are listening to this.
And one day other people will find this in the future and they'll be like, oh.
Like, immediately 1 star.
But maybe one person will resonate with this. And that's really all life is about.
We're different. We're different. Okay, so I'm happy for you, for the most part.
Thanks. Yeah.
Anything, let's see here. Let me pull up my handy dandy Google Doc that I had no part in creating.
Wait, how was your week? You secretly only talked about your Invisalign and you didn't mention your week at all.
We are 18 minutes and counting in, and I don't have. All right, the long and short of it is I had a good week, have been solo parenting my French Bulldog for the last 2.5-ish weeks because my husband was at the Super Bowl, working the Super Bowl. I actually had,
Whoa, free shirt.
until you just said who won or lost, I don't even know. Like, is it the Chiefs lost? I didn't
They did.
watch. I didn't watch. You know why?
So the Eagles
Because I
won.
could. And every year of the Super Bowl, I am forced to watch. Not by him. It's just like the community. Like, oh, we should go to my friend's apartment. He's having a Super Bowl party. It's all about like the experience. And I said, no, I will not. I won't. I will watch Kendrick Lamar's performance after.
Yeah. Did you turn in for him?
Yes, but like I didn't need, I'm not somebody who, this will shock none of you. I don't need to be watching live in order to feel like I'm a part of an experience. I'm good. I'm real good. So I waited however long it took for it to be on YouTube or TikTok or wherever I was. I was like, oh, I was like, Kendrick, you're inspiring me to take out my bootcut jeans. And that's about as much of the Super Bowl as I got. And so I had a good week. Solo parenting and being by myself is one of my favorite activities. So Nick came home at approximately 3 o'clock this morning.
And you kicked him out.
I did. I kicked him out. We cannot have him here.
2 people in the apartment at the same time.
Not here in New York City. No, not here in New York City. Yes. So anywho, that's me.
We love it. What a great
week. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Thanks for sharing all those details. We love it.
You're so welcome. He's so obnoxious, isn't he? He's so obnoxious, right? Right. All right. Let's dive into today's topic. Setting up the correct environment for success, whether you're on the coach side or the client/athlete side. You want to start, Nick?
Yeah. I would love to. Thanks for asking. The first point I think is pretty interesting to talk about is I think when you're so let's level the playing field. Let's explain what we're talking about. So when we mean environment, we mean like everything that kind of can influence you as an athlete or as a coach. The environment you set up is what influences your athletes, vice versa, right? So like what we mean is like there are things you're doing as a coach that are impacting your athletes in certain ways. And you could look at these things and say, hey, how am I affecting the environment? What am I setting up? How am I putting these things in place? Or you could just be like, oh, I'm just gonna be me, and whatever happens And so I think not enough time do we as leaders think of the impact we're having on the people we lead. And on the flip side, as an athlete, as a client, when you look to someone to lead you, like, are you looking at, I just like them, they seem smart, or look at what is setting up around them? What are people saying about them? What does it look like as a client experience with them? Are you learning these things? Are you seeing what it looks like to be a part of that environment? And I think, if you want to take a little further context, like think of work, right? Like work culture is usually caused by your boss. You have a great boss. Sometimes you love work. And when you have a terrible boss, even if you like what you do, you sort of hate work, right? And so it's a similar experience in athletics and fitness and anything. So, today we're going to talk about like what impacts could matter, what you look for, and what can coaches do. And so, I think leading that completely to the first point we have is like how your actions influence your athletes, right? And so as a coach, we always talk about leading by example. And what does that look like, right? So like I think of if me, a coach who sort of is leading, my examples are not just what I tell my athletes one on one. That's just our communication. But like, what am I doing in my own experiences? What am I doing in my running? What am I sharing on social media? What am I like telling athletes? What am I creating? What are those examples, right? And so I think, often it's about like what are you putting out there, right? And so, Amanda, what do you see on social media a lot that kind of like
Yeah,
leads to
so
this?
as you're speaking, I was thinking about how there's a fine line here. So if I am, as a, for example, run coach, promoting proper fueling, but I'm not talking about how I fuel in an adequate way or sharing resources, like I don't know, I would feel inauthentic. The other thing that I see are, but then the fine line. Okay, so this is what I was thinking about before. I got carried away. What I was thinking about before is sometimes we get lost in what the example is. So, for example, I think that there are people who believe that a run coach's aesthetic or finishing time is a prerequisite, and that is the reason to hire them or want them in your corner. But that individual cannot promise you the genetics that they possess, or can't promise you results in general, right? So you want the person in your corner to have like foster an environment that is beneficial to you. That's what you are literally paying them for. But do not confuse it with like the aesthetic of the industry that you're hiring them for, whether it's running or strength training or what have you. So I see a lot on social media like that there are people who initially hire trainers or coaches for the wrong preachings.
Yeah.
But I think that we want to be more aware of what is actually healthful versus harmful for us to grow.
And I think like you brought up an example of fueling, right? And so one of those things that I think of is often is someone like if you're a coach and you're like, hey, athletes, you need to take in 60 to 70 grams of carbs an hour. And then you're on social media and you're like, did my long run today, I had 2 gels for 3 hours, right? Like that's inauthentic example for your athletes, right? It's very confusing. If you're like, don't do run streaks, but I'm going to do a run streak. Like I always hear people say, do as I say, not as I do. And I think that's a terrible
I
thing
hate
to say
that.
as a leader,
Yes.
right? Like if you want to be, if you're not a lead and you're just like a part of your running group and you just want to be just another runner who's like sharing their journey with others and like collaborating, sure, fine. You can say that
Actually
comment. But when you're a
fine,
leader,
kind of fine.
kind of fine. All
You know
right.
what I mean? Like
All right.
there's
I
an
feel it.
asterisk there because some of y'all have no credentials, but you have massive followings. And at what point are you taking responsibility?
Yeah, that's fair. So I think that's a good way. But like I hear so often people say that stuff, and it's like, no, like you are a leader. If you're a coach, if you're a fitness lead, if you're someone of influence on social media, like take responsibility for your actions. Like if you're going to share this message and tell people to do the other thing, then you don't believe it, right? And what are you telling your athletes? I don't believe what I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the example not to lead by, right? And so I think it's very important that when you become a lead that you take the responsibility that comes with your name is coach, your name is fitness instructor, your name is it's those are embedded terms to say I'm somewhat responsible for the people who are here with me, either in the class or the people who I work for me, who pay me. I have responsibility for them. So my actions matter. My words matter. What I put out on social media matters because they're seeing it and they're reading it.
Yeah, it's how you build trust. It's how you build trust in any relationship. So yeah, I'm aligned with you on that. I
Big align.
We run parallel. Uh how so the next thing that kind of leads us to, I think it also goes both ways. You mentioned on our shared doc, responding to feedback and from your athlete, and an athlete also responding to feedback from their coach, and how we as coaches can support them. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
I do. I think communication, it's how you communicate, right? And so thinking a little bit about how are you giving this feedback to your athlete and supporting them in general moments, right? And how are you getting the message to them clearly, right? Like we all understand everyone communicates differently, everyone understands differently, but when you're a coach, you're leading individual people, right? And so it's sometimes you put out I definitely put out messages sometimes to everyone, but it's more of generic advice like happy holidays or here's my holidays or like here's where I'm going to be away or things like that. Like that's a general, but for the most part when I'm giving advice to everyone, it's like very specific to them because I need them to hear it and understand it. And so when it comes to feedback, it's also important to like make sure you are responding to feedback, right? That's important. That is your job as a coach. Like whatever you set your terms as, cool. But at the end of the day, the feedback you got is your responsibility to sort of take in, understand, and give back to what they need, right? And so as an athlete, on the flip side, the environment you're setting up for success, you want to make sure that your feedback is being listened to and heard, right? Because how is this environment going to foster your growth if your needs aren't being met, right? If you are giving feedback and it isn't being heard, listened to, responded to, understood, like you have a responsibility to share it, but the environment you're in that you want to be successful in needs that to be met on the other end.
You bring up something that we spoke a little bit about when we were on the Running Explain podcast
Ooh,
that
which
I
one?
think that we should revisit. And it's that we see a lot of people who are either classifying themselves as coaches because again, we work, Nick and myself work, not his government job, our fitness jobs, our run coaching and personal training jobs and our fit in a highly unregulated industry. And so not only is the ability to get a certification stupid easy, the ability to call yourself something without like having to show proof is also stupid easy. But what will differentiate somebody who knows how to do all the things that Nick just mentioned, communicate with people who respond better to a certain type of communication. For example, some of my clients, they really do well with hearing me communicate with them and tone and more tough love, if you will. And then I have some who it's very like they're very short, but not in a negative way. They're just like they take the assignment, they share with you what they need, you give it back to them, and they're happy, right? And so we all have different communication styles that's not a skill that you can pick up in a 2-day course. It's something that is, I don't know that you can learn it. Sure, over time, I guess anyone can learn how to communicate with different people, but I'm not actually sure of that. I just said that, and that's kind of a lie. I don't think that everyone can. I don't think that everyone can.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, like we talk about often as coaches, like sometimes we're therapists, right? Because like, and I'm not obviously qualified. My wife is,
I'm not
uh,
qualified either, but it just ends up happening
but
sometimes.
yeah, and I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express, right, to promote a long time joke that is still funny to me. Anyway, that
Is there
they,
anyone
you
on the
know, I've
podcast that understands the
I don't, they'd have to be like probably
and
42
oh,
around.
okay, I'm a few years shy, so I don't
Yeah,
really
I'll share it with you later. Anyway, yeah, they
that
as you know,
that's you just brought an inside joke to the outside. This isn't even that Patreon that we
yeah,
haven't started yet.
I'm so good at this. I'm so good at making my and a joke that's only inside to me. Anyway, yeah, what we're saying, therapists, this idea of like helping athletes through this, right? Like, and it's responding to feedback to support them too means more than just like great run or way to go. Like you're supporting their life, right? There's a lot going on, and so like listening to feedback, understanding where it's coming from, and being able to support that feedback as more than just a number in a log, but as a human being, right? Like I think that's what you're sort of getting at. I
Yes.
think a lot of new coaches have kind of come into this world with no understanding that that's part of the job of coach, and just thinking this is how I monetize my following, so I'll just throw some numbers in a log at them and get paid, right? And that's not coaching, right? And I think athletes deserve more than that. And I think it's, for all of you looking for a coach, like demand the best, demand what you need, demand getting your needs met, not just some paper with
Right.
numbers.
And be okay shopping around in the same way that you would any professional. Do not just trust the image that they're putting out on social media. And if I like to think that if somebody is in the business of hiring somebody, to support them in this journey, because it is in fact a journey. It's not like I have a race in 12 weeks and I need somebody. No, go get a, then go online and find a plan. Like, be so serious. Like, you, to have a, a sustainable relationship with running, at some point, it is likely going to be beneficial for you to have a professional in your corner, or in any fitness modality. That is the T. And get comfortable making sure that they fit the bill for you. Do they put out testimonials from real humans? Okay, real humans, not just comment runner in on this post and I'll send you my intake for. No, what do you know? I want to know the humans who you work with. I want to hear from them. I want to, and if your testimonials aren't on their social media, check out their website. Word of mouth is your best friend. Like, these are the things that you need to know how this person works with actual humans. So, speaking of that, as humans, right, we have big moments that are both big wins for us in our running journeys and in our fitness journey, whether that's a race or a certain strength goal, or a loss, right? Maybe we came up short. And how a trainer or a run coach shows up for you in those moments. And it honestly, like, you mentioned it here, Nick, and it's worth saying out loud. It's not just in athletics, at the gym, at the race. It's how they're showing up for you when you're going through a major life event that's going to obviously impact your fitness experience.
Yeah. And, again, we're talking about this environment, right? And so this place that's fostering your growth, right? And so, we just talked about how feedback can matter and support you, right? And so now we're talking about these big moments, whether it's, like you just said, a race win, a life win, getting married, having a kid, graduating, whatever it is, right? Like, like, how do you show up for that stuff instead of missing it, right? Like, I hear too many horror stories from athletes who are like, I had a big race and the coach didn't even message me for 3 days about it. Even if it's bad or good, like, the coach needs to reach out and like talk and like, hey, way to go today, way to be tough, or way to get through this. Like, show up, right? Because now you've lost all, like, how does that make someone feel if you work together for this big moment and then there is no showing up from your coach, right? If this environment isn't celebrating it, right? And so one of the things I do, and I think I've talked about in this podcast, is I take all these wins from my athletes, all these races, and I do a newsletter every month, and I sum up everyone's race results. Most of the time, I don't even put the times in there because they don't matter. But I tell a little story about everyone's race and like how they got to this, how they overcame the stuff in their life that I'm well aware of because I'm involved, and like set that. And that like, I have heard such great feedback from my athletes of like, we love hearing about how their athletes are doing, we love hearing about their races, like, we love seeing this stuff, we seeing the photos. These are the big moments, right? This is celebrating that stuff that matters. It's little bits of time for me to create that environment, but that environment gives back, it gives energy, it like helps people feel excited for their result, that it's being celebrated, not just themselves celebrating on social media, but by their coach to the other people who are part of the same group. Like, you're creating this environment of success, and like, and if it's a loss, right? Like, it's not, don't shy away as a coach or fitness or whatever of like being scared in those moments when there's a loss, because I think too many coaches feel that coach guilt, like, I let this person down, and then they sort of disappear, right? Like, oh, you didn't run a PR, I screwed up, I'm not going to reach out until they reach out, and they're just waiting to hear from you, right? Like, you're the
Yeah.
leader,
And I,
reach out. And like, yeah,
no,
go ahead.
no, that it's, I also think, like, we have to reframe those moments too, right? So although at the time it's quote unquote a loss, it's a, you know, it's an opportunity as well. When I think about your athlete wins that you're mentioning, and I think about how I show up for my clients in the times that they're winning and quote unquote losing, it always comes back around. If it's not a win, it's a lesson. So if
And it's
it's
always
always
growth.
growth. If somebody for the first time, and this is a lot of, I tend to have, and it's example of practicing what you preach. I'm very open about my relationship with multiple eating disorders and my history. And it's become a part of it's influenced who I am as a coach. I'm not in the slightest bit ashamed of it. I tend to work with, and they seek me out, so it makes sense. Folks who have struggled with disordered eating or want to fuel their bodies correctly to support their longevity in running, lifting, existing. So a huge win for somebody is when they decide to eat before a short run. A huge win for somebody is when they take that gel and they never took gels on their run. A huge win for somebody is prioritizing sleep when they never did before. Like they would, these are the things that like you don't think about. I think when you're first entering the industry, is like these things aren't going to come up for me as a trainer or a coach. But like the fact that I'm the person who my athlete says like I wouldn't have been able to get through my divorce without you in my corner. What?
Yeah,
those
that's
are
big.
those are huge things to not just a person. When I hear that, I'm like, what? Of course I am. Of course I'll would be there for you, and I'm not going to abandon you in one of the most trying periods of your life, whether that is a divorce, an injury, you quote unquote messing up and forgetting to eat enough that day. And like you got to learn from these errors, right? And as you shared, it's all growth opportunities, and so to be a part of that experience is a privilege.
Yeah, and you set up the
Yes.
environment, like, and back to this whole idea, right? You set up the environment where celebrating those wins or coming with those moments is something an athlete feels comfortable doing, right? Everyone doesn't have that environment set up. So those are things you're looking for an athlete. Like these are the types of coaching and these are things you're still going to look for from your coach. Is like, is this an environment where we share? Like where I'm cared, where I will be celebrated not just for my 40-minute PR that the coach like takes credit for in some way, shape, or form, but like also for, hey, I ran for the first time ever in my life 5 days a week and I never thought I could, or I ran 50 miles in a week and I never thought I could. Sure, that's something that doesn't necessarily feel like a big win, but like if you create an environment where an athlete feels like that's a big win and wants to celebrate anything, then you've created an environment that is like promoting the wins and the losses as growth and like showing these moments as things that happen. And the athletes and coaches don't shy away from talking about this stuff, which makes the relationship strong.
Something I also just thought about was as adults, right? Because um, Nick and I coach adults. I also coach one, I train one person under the age of 18. But how many times in our lives as adults do we have somebody outside of like our professional life getting a raise at work? How many times in our life as an adult does somebody turn to you and say, I'm so proud of how you handled that?
I say that too. It's such a powerful thing. Just tell someone you're proud of them. Like, no, we don't do it enough.
No, we don't. And I haven't heard you say that you were proud of me once in the last 43 minutes and 38 seconds.
I will add in some sound bites later of me saying, I'm so proud of you, Amanda. I'm
I
just going
don't
to add that
believe
in.
you because while I was talking, you trolled me and you changed my name on Riverside to Dental Queen. Y'all trust no one. I can't have him in my environment. This guy's out. You're just like the rest of them, okay? You're just like the rest of them.
Yeah, no, I think we talked a lot about the big moments, and I think that was great. I think that so next thing we got sort of in this environment for success is like, you know, leading enough as a coach, as a professional instructor, as a fitness professional, but also knowing when to get out of the way and letting athletes shine, right? I think this is such a tricky balance, but like why it's on this list is because it's important, right? Because if you as a coach, we feel like we can solve everything, like and so like I don't know if I jumping in on problem solving moments from your athletes or telling them exactly how to do everything or that kind of stuff. As a coach, you can kind of feel like you need to solve all this stuff for them to maybe either prove yourself or show like that you're doing your job, but
Or to
like
show that you're
sometimes it's about
needed,
being there.
right?
Yeah, and like and so those are all like sometimes things that we don't want to show as coaches. Like we don't need to that stuff because ultimately we're their guide, right?
Yes.
Like this is, I always say to athletes, this is your training plan and I am your co-pilot on your fun journey ahead, right? And so when you set up an environment that encourages like, problem solving and curiosity and athletes kind of looking to themselves to solve things with knowing at the end of the day, if they go the wrong direction, this is where you show up as a coach. You catch them, right? If they know that they can make a
Yes.
mistake and that when they fall, you will catch them, like they'll take on the biggest
Yes.
challenges, right? And so you have to allow them to take those moments where they take a big reach, where you don't go, this is as fast as I think you can go, or this is this. Like you just say, hey, let's go. And like they can take this big chance and then you're there, right? And you're there. They know you'll catch them and build them back up no matter what big thing happens in their
Yes.
life. And so,
Because we're gonna
like, this is
fall.
this,
We
yeah,
all do. We're
we
gonna
are.
fall. So to allow it to happen, or recognize that it's going to happen and not try to avoid it or be afraid of the inevitable. Let your athletes fall. And if you're listening to this and you are working with a running professional, a fitness trainer, make sure that you are allowed to make mistakes, and by allowed I mean, when you do make a mistake, what is the response from the person you're working with? Are they upset with you? Are they keeping a closer eye on you? Are they giving you a hard time? Pay attention to how you're being treated, and and take note and recognize that there's no way that you could have a lifelong relationship in running, in lifting, in taking group fitness classes, whatever you engage in, without failing. You have to.
It's when you grow. We just said it before. Like you aren't growing when it feels like when you have success, you're growing. It's all the failures that are leading you to the success for the growth. If all you have is success, then you're not. There's no growth. It's just more and more success. You need these moments where you reach, right. And so along those lines, it's like, when you create a place where people are curious enough to chase something. I have athletes sometimes tell me, oh, I went out too hard in this workout. Sorry, I didn't listen to your paces and I blew up at the end. I hope you're not mad at me. And I'm like, no, like that's great. We went for it. It didn't work out today, but like you tried something and you went for it. And like, I'm sure it hurt a lot. What am I going to do? Yell at you because you ran too hard on a tempo workout and it felt like you know terrible the last like 5 minutes? Because like no, like that already sucks, right? And so those are the moments when you're like, okay, well, what do we learn from this? How can I help you build back up after this? Like, if you have a big race, you have a big goal, and it blows up. How do you show up for moments? Like, I always think back to a couple athletes at New York City Marathon during the hot year, and they still swung for it, even though we kind of talked about, well, it's like 80 degrees. But like I could have been like, what are you doing? But also at the same time, it's just like, hey, you went for it. Now I'm gonna catch you and we're gonna talk through it and we're gonna build you back up. We're gonna get you to feel like you can do a marathon again and enjoy that type of stuff, right? That's why I'm here, because if they would have fallen and I'm here telling them you went out too hard and you blew your opportunity. Where's the environment for growth? Where's the environment for success? Where's the environment to support them? It's not there. And next time they will feel less comfortable ever reaching outside their zone or even
That's right.
communicating.
That's right. That's right. And I think that's why you the one, Coach Nick. So beyond us as coaches to our clients, it's also about making sure that we have a community of support for our athletes. So I wanted to mention that it's, as a coach, as a professional in fitness, recognizing your scope of practice is really important. And I think Nick will take this another way, which is why we're co-hosts. We add to the conversation. What I like to do is, because we are the type of coaches that it's an open door policy, there's no TMI, know when to recruit other professionals to support your athlete, right? And offer that to them. So if there's more nutritional guidance that is needed, or injury support, or mental health support, having what I like to call, and you guys have heard me say this, I like to call them my hype squad, my support squad. And I have this network of professionals who I reach out to when put them on an email thread, give them the phone number of the athlete who's ready to start working with them to help support them in their journey, because we as fitness professionals cannot do it alone. We're not qualified to do it alone. And we wouldn't want good fitness professionals don't want to do it alone. They want to make
those all-inclusive packages.
No, I get me off of this cruise ship specifically. I don't want to be on a cruise ship. It's just I want to be on land.
No, I agree. Support squad is super important, and like having these experts, around to support, super important. I also, similarly, create a community right around. Like I like to, in a way that your athletes want to join. Like, don't force community. You can't force community, right? Like I feel this happens quite often in any industry. It's like, we're going to be a community here. Everyone do these things, so we're a community. It's like, that's not how any of this works, right? Like, create something, see what works, keep trying. And the community is created because the people want to do it.
Yes.
Right. And so you can't force it. You can't just be on there every week being like, what's your favorite color, everyone? Let's talk. Next week, what's your other favorite color? Let's talk again. Like, that's not a community. That's just like busy work.
Mhm.
I don't know. So like, putting a community around your athletes is super helpful. Like, having places where they can share. Like I've talked about before too. I have a WhatsApp community that I started. And in the beginning, I was like, oh, this thing's not going to work. And then I just poured into it when I could. It wasn't a big deal. And now over the years, like, it's something that my athletes really love and share and talk. And like, this is a way that what I find fun out of this is they've connected. Some of them have started podcasts together, and some of them have like shared their journeys together, become friends outside the WhatsApp, or, or celebrating each other's wins, like, another way. And right, like, now it feels like you're part of something bigger than yourself. Right. And that is, at the end of the day, this environment, right? It's all these pieces, right? It's community around you supporting you. It's your coach listening. It's your coach leading and helping you take big chances, but catching you in your fall. It's the actions of your coach, that leads you all to the community, lead the environment to show you what is right and what they're doing, right? They're leading by example, how they're supporting you, how they're listening to your feedback. This is the environment you want to be a part of. It's not just like Amanda said earlier, wow, that person ran, 2 hours and 20 minutes in a marathon. They are absolutely going to be my coach, because then I'll run 2 hours and 20 minutes in a marathon. It's like, none of that works like that. Like, and like, what if that's not what you need? What if they're going to train you like a professional athlete? And unfortunately, maybe you don't have the life to, sit in a sauna every day and, do 2 hour massages and whatever else, a nap. Wow, I would love a nap. Like, you don't have those like things, right? And that's okay. We all don't have that, but like, maybe you want more. Maybe you want connection. Maybe you want the support. So what this episode's really about is like, not only telling coaches like, hey, create an environment that really supports your athletes. And it's more than just some single feedback, and it's more than just like the training plans, right? It's so much more. And also, as athletes, what you deserve and and looking for an environment that you want, right? Because that will make everything better for you, and you will thrive in the right environment.
I think finding the right person for you will just make you more self-aware, and it only benefits you to know what you need to be successful. And you may hire the wrong person initially. That's okay. You may do it several times. That's okay. That's, similar to life, right? You don't know until you try, and then you learn from those experiences even greater lessons than oftentimes the successful ones. Like, I learned that this style does not work for me, and now I know what to not look for. I know I'm not the personal trainer or the fitness professional or the run coach for everyone, and that is okay. We are all individuals. So,
And you learned your right podcast host, and it was me.
okay.
Did it. Awkward.
Because I didn't really have a choice.
Well, that's about that.
Speaking of choices, did we do it?
We done did it.
But before we done do it, I'm just saying words now. We want to let you know that coming soon, coming real soon. So you're going to have to follow us along on Nick's Instagram and my Instagram for more formal announcements / keep your notifications on. We will be launching our Patreon in the very immediate future.
And this is definitely real, and we're definitely doing it.
And it will be worth it. I think that every person who listens to us here and wants to hear a more unhinged, real talk, but also like informative lens that maybe we don't have the time or energy to give to our podcast would benefit from subscribing. Stay tuned.
I'm excited.
Me too. Me too. Otherwise, thank you everyone for joining us, and we hope that you enjoyed this episode. You can reach out to us at any time via the DM or at betweentwocoaches@gmail.com. If you have not done so already, one of the biggest ways that you can support us that is free 99 is to give this podcast 5 stars on repeat. Get your aunt, your son, your golden doodle to rate us and give us 5 stars. And we'll see you all next time.
Bye.